Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am back to talk about 2 episodes of Motherland Fort Salem. The first one is 207, titled Irrevocable, which premiered August 3rd, 2021, and episode 208, titled Delusional, which premiered August 10th, 2021, both on Freeform or ABC Spark, depending on where you're viewing it. Huge spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the 2 episodes already, please go do so first, and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. Other video reminders are up on screen, so take a moment to remind yourselves of those. I'm recording on the 11th, so it's the day after 208 aired. I did not plan to combine these 2 episodes together, but when I went back home last week, ready to watch 207 there, the channel wasn't giving us access. And then by the time I got back to my normal place where I had the PVR recording, it was only less than 24 hours left until 208 aired. So I was like, why not just combine the 2? Due to how long it takes me to edit. So anyways, with that all said, we'll go with 207 first, and then we'll go with 208. So what happened in 207? So timeline wise, I'm thinking shortly after the events of 206, because it has to be enough time for the soldiers of Fort Salem to get to the secession to be able to pretty much debrief Tally and look at the kidnapping site, if it were. So that's my reasoning there. Villain, of course, is gonna be the Camarilla. Yeah, there's different factions going on for there. But the opening scene of the episode, it actually is a little bit longer than expected, because usually there's only one scene happening in the teaser of the episode, but this time there's about 3 different ones. But the first opening is of Petra visiting Charvel's grave and noticing that it has been disrupted. And as you know, in the previous episode, Adil managed to pretty much raise Charvel's hand to draw blood from her so they can track it. Anyways, just before she can investigate a little bit further into the disrupted grave, she gets word from Claude about Tally calling and reporting about Rael's abduction. So there's that. Everyone's really known right off the bat what's happening to her. But the storylines for the episode, I picked up on 3 different ones, but they do all converge together to the same point in the end of it. So the first storyline I'm going to say is Unwanted Experiments, second one being Rescue Mission, and the third one being Revenge Mission. So the first storyline with Unwanted Experiments, this is mainly going to deal with what's happening with Rael. So we meet lead surgeon Albin Hurst. I don't believe he's actually named in the episode, but I had to go check him on the IMDb page to see what his name was. And he's the one that's performing all these different tests on Rael, really testing what this new power that they've heard rumors about her having, and we get to see the extent of what the mycelium power can do. And he confirmed that the mycelium power will not harm witches. He tried to use the kids as targets for that when he pretty much crushed Rael to death. It was pretty gruesome when he was going into the old ways, as he calls it. But while this is all happening, Rael, between her times, like when she dies, like her limbo, is in this world of the mycelium. And this mycelium sentience claims that Rael will change the tide of the war ahead because she is a host that does not want power, and it's why they allowed for her to have such control or such a bond with their power of the mycelium. So there's that, or that was my understanding of it at least, and they definitely spoke in a different language. I don't know if it's meant to be the same language as mother tongue or if it was something different, but yeah, they definitely needed the subtitles for it when it was happening. But the second storyline with the rescue mission, this deals more with Scylla and Willa both trying to find where Rael is after Scylla gets confirmation by calling Edwin that Rael had been taken. So they use Marcus Toombs, who I thought Scylla had killed at the gala, but apparently not. They use him under their influence to get back to the Camarilla post to find Rael. Pretty much like mind control or compulsion if you know the Vampire Diaries and the originals. But in the end, we see Willa sacrificing herself to save Rael when the surgeon Albin released the witch plague on Rael to see which would win out, the witch plague variant or the mycelium power. It seemed to be struggling between the two. So to save her daughter, Willa used one of their fixer spells to take on the ailment of that she is trying to heal. So the witch plague targets Willa first, and then Scylla was able, as well as with Abigail, was able to pull Ray out before the witch plague spread to whatever else had witch blood in the vicinities. Which leads to the revenge mission of number 3, which deals with Abigail and Adil following the blood compass created from Charvel's blood to find the Camarilla member who is using Charvel's voice box. Or voice or blood, because the blood compass is meant to show where the source of the blood is, which is her grave, and the little tiny trail of it is meant to show where the rest of her is, which would be the part that they took from her throat, which is still disgusting. But anyways, in doing so, they come across some anti-witch people from the community, causes a bit of a commotion and a scene there, which leads to Adil using some aggressive methods. And he's a little thrown by this because his people are not aggressive people. They're pacifists and stuff. So we have a bit of a struggle there. We also have their blood compass leading them to the kidnapped children, which are also in the same location that Rael is being held captive. So when they are freeing the children and killing I assume that Abigail killed the one who was using Charvel's voice. When they were getting ready to flee with the children, they find out that Rael is being held captive there. And when Adil deals with the kids, Abigail goes in search of Rael, and that's where she finds Scylla as she watches Willa save Rael through her sacrifice. By the end of it, before they leave, Adil uses his power to destroy the facility by pretty much having it collapse on itself. Kind of like if an earthquake kind of consumed it. So that is where the story is there. But the last scene of the episode shows Rael waking up with Scylla by her bedside from what looks like to be the same bedroom that Tiffany was held in a few episodes ago. So there's that. So major tidbits though for this episode I found. Alder is still under protection as she heals from the burned throat. She's actually able to still speak for herself, but it's very hoarse. But she's in this it looks like a salt circle to me. But now her and the biddies have to stay within that circle. But Alder is attacked again by Nicta through means of stretching, kind of like she was like a puppet on a string. So she was being stretched, and this was due to one of the biddies inside the protective circle being corrupted by Nicta. So once that biddy was cast out of the protective circle, the Alder was safe again. We also see Vice President Silver and Petra giving a statement to the people about the postponement of the testing facilities, from my understanding. Petra reading from a prepared statement from Adler. This is also a broadcast that Abigail and Adil saw from the restaurant before things got heated between the people who do not like the witches and the testing centers. We also see Quinn again, who was Willa's best friend back in the Secession. We see her holding a meeting with the other witches of the community as they talk about the current disappearances of their young witches. Tally interrupts them because she wanted to go to Gwen to find help and to try to figure out how to save Rael, but instead Tally informs them about the Camarilla's new tactics, since they already knew that the Camarilla were behind it, even though the Alder wanted to keep the public from knowing that the Camarilla were back, to cause a panic from the witches. So there's that. Let's move on to characters, though. The only thing major about Adil was that we learned a little bit more about him. He used to come from a big family before it was just him and Kalita left. We find out that the creation of the blood compass and how he and Kalita both have one that connects to the other, so it's their way of always finding each other. And we also find out that his people's tradition of the pacifist way dates back to 10,000 years. And he finds him breaking that tradition is a huge weight on his shoulder. Now, most shocking moment of the episode, I will have to say, is Willa's sacrifice, which she took on the witch plague for herself. That was one. Also, seeing Adil being the one to destroy the Camarilla facility, especially with his views about going the passive way instead of being aggressive and using force. And just a shocking moment for myself was just the fact that Marcus Toombs was alive, because I believe that he was killed when Scylla attacked him at the Halloween Gala. So there's that. Moving on to top favorite moments, though. First one, Rael's strength against the Camarilla, specifically against that Albin Hurst surgeon guy. Just her attitude towards him, and even though she's being killed left and right by all these weird different ways, she still was defiant against him. She definitely shouldn't have to go through all this, but it was great that she wasn't losing herself, I guess, in a way. Like, she was still putting up a good fight. So I really appreciate that. The fact that she was even very protective of the kids, naturally so, if she was already feeling guilty over the idea that she can't control the mycelium, and she feared that she would kill the kids because of it. And it proved out she was able to, and mycelium wasn't attacking the kids. So I'm wondering if... Here's something I'm wondering. We knew all those children were witches, and we found out from the mycelium that the witches are not the target. I'm wondering, would that have been said if one of the children were human? Would that child still be alive from the mycelium? Because we've seen before that it killed adult humans. So I'm wondering if it's just humans in general, like it differentiates between human and witch, or if it's more of like it's a child that shouldn't be harmed, and that's why. So I'm wondering if a human child was in that little target group, if they would have survived or not by that mycelium display. I hope not, because then that would show true control as opposed to just saying, oh, they're one of us, we don't target them, kind of a thing. So that's an interesting thing. That's an unexpected question I had. Another favorite I did have was Willa's goodbye to Rael within the mycelium, despite the sadness that came from it. I mean, yes, I kind of wish that she had more time, but I do really like the fact that she was even able to have that moment with Rael, instead of just like them always like being passing ships in the wind kind of a thing. So it was really powerful. And even though Willa did all this stuff that separated her from her daughter, I was glad that she got that moment. And they were both so good, such emotion, so moving. Broke my heart to see Rael break down again like that after all that she's been through in this episode, you know. And another favorite moment I had was Tally's protectiveness, not only for Rael and her being kidnapped and Alder treating her like Rael's just a witch bomb, but Tally like really like standing by Rael and like showing her worth, but also Tally's protectiveness when Nicta attacked Alder through the corrupted Biddy. Her able to see the corrupted connection through her sight, her forcing the Biddy out with no question as to whether or not she'd get in trouble or not. So I really like Tally growing into her own and like really standing up for the things she believes in. So and also too, because she's at odds with Alder and like what she's doing and stuff. So the fact that she was still able to do the right thing was just something that was like really great. So there is that. Top peeve moment of the episode, I did kind of briefly mention it, but it was the fact that Rael will never get more time with Willa. I was, for this whole first part of the season, I was waiting for the moment where Rael would reunite with her mom and really find out the truth. But to find out that like she's never going to get that time and never get true answers from her, instead she always has to hear from a secondhand source, and that she never got to ask all the questions that she wanted to, and essentially it was as if she had died all over again for her. And it was just, Rael deserves so much better, and I wish she had more time with her mom. I mean, it seems kind of unfair that Scylla got more time with Willa than Rael ever could get, especially in these very, very important times when the decisions really do affect her. So that was a peeve there. But moving on to random questions. The first one: would we consider the witch plague to be the reverse of the mycelium power? I mean, when they were fighting off against each other within Rael, it kind of had me wondering, because the mycelium would heal her, but then the witch plague would kind of consume her again, but then it would heal her, and then it would kind of consume her again. So it was just like, who would actually win? I don't know. So that's a question there. Another one: are all the workings or spell work that we saw Adil using, are they not known to the military? Because I feel like those would be very useful skills, because we saw him do invisibility, we saw him pretty much break down a cement wall, we saw him pretty much collapse an entire building too, and I'm pretty sure he liquefied one of the members' bones. They definitely look a bit too flexible when it showed their after shot. So I'm wondering, are any of these known, or are they strictly just known for his people? Because if that's so, then that would make sense why him and Kalita were so protective to not share them with Alder in the military. But I'm just curious, like how much public knowledge are these different workings? That's the question. And next question. How did Nikta get her hand on a biddy to be able to corrupt her and form that connection with her? Like, that's something I'm particularly interested in, because especially the biddies are always by Alder's side. It has me wondering, well, when could she have access to a biddy, right? So that is something there. Sorry, something came unloose for me. All right, so let's move on to episode 208. Throw out timeline. I think it's the shortly after the events of 207, just because since 207 ended with Rael still asleep in that bed, or just waking up to see Scylla by her bedside. I think it's shortly after, just because Rael is being told that she still needs to rest. She just woke up and she's still in the same outfit. And when we show them back at that Spree safe house, so that's what I'm thinking. Maybe it's like a few moments after. Maybe, I don't know. But that's something. Villain is definitely going to be Nikta Batan this time. So we definitely, everyone is now on the mission to now find her. But the opening scene is of Alder telling Tally of her new mission for Nikta Batan. Tally is sent to go pretty much a kill mission for Nikta. And Tally won't do it unless her unit is on the mission. So only Rael and Abigail are with her. Naturally, she wants her team by her side to have her back. Makes sense. So with that, we have two different storylines that I picked up on. First one being capture a traitor, and the second one being Mother's mission. So the first storyline is dealing with the mission to capture Nikta Batan. Actually, Tally is given the mission to kill Nikta, but then Petra gives a captured order instead, which is unknown to Alder or Anacostia, that the objective was changed. But Petra wants more answers of what had happened back in Liberia. I think it's Liberia. But they wanted answers of what led to Nikta wanting to create the Spree, essentially. Which naturally I want to know as well. I really want to know the details of that mission that separated her from Alder. But also with this storyline, we have Tally insisting on Rael and Abigail to accompany her, or she won't go on the mission. Scylla ends up joining them because she's part of the Spree. She knows their workings, which proved to be very helpful in this situation, as they all got stuck in Nikta's hallucinations on them before she ends up turning the unit against each other and such, until she's finally captured, quote unquote, finally captured. And then we'll talk about that later. But the second storyline with Mother's mission is pretty much throughout the episode, but it's with Rael dealing more with the truth of Willa's absence instead of her thinking she's been dead all this time. We see Rael also updating Scylla about what's been happening with her with the mycelium power and like what has changed and stuff. But it's really all about Rael dealing with the fact that like her mom has lied to her and she's been away, and dealing with the fact that like the two people who she seems to care about most in the world, her mom and Scylla, seem to be on the wrong side of the military, and she doesn't know how to process that or what to make of that, which rightfully so, because now she's questioning, well, what does that mean, or what does that say about her? Though Scylla claims that her priorities of the Spree have now shifted to now focusing on the Camarilla, which we'll talk about in a little moment. But the last scene of the storyline shows the real Nikta Batan being apprehended and Tally being released from her restraints, because during their fight, Nikta had switched places with Tally. And I gotta say, I honestly thought that this would be an issue in the next episode. But the last scene shows the charade being revealed when Nikta tried to attack Alder. We'll talk about that later, though. But major tidbits, though, I found was that Alder is still working within the protective circle at the start of the episode, though she is now seen outside of those barriers and actually standing outside of Fort Salem when Nikta is brought in. So she seems to be on the mend, or she heals very quickly. I don't know. Maybe it's the benefit that she has the biddies attached to her and they take on the brunt of the injury as well. But she was able to have enough of her voice back that she was able to address a loud speech without any amplification. We also find out from Petra that the Liberia mission with Nikta and Alder happened decades ago. I guess that kind of also tracks when we see Nicta having a few gray hairs more than she did in the flashbacks that Tally was getting. So there's that. But moving on to characters, though. With Adil, we see him struggle with his aggressive actions in the previous episode against the Camarilla. And him trying to deal with the fact that he pretty much went against the traditions of his people that have been instilled in them for the last 10,000 years. So he's trying to wrap his head around that. Also with Scylla, we find out that her next steps, because she couldn't return to Fort Salem with Rael, Scylla plans to find a new family for Tiffany, possibly another Dodger family, before she continues on with Willow's work against stopping the Camarilla. Rael actually suggests for Scylla to take Tiffany to the Secession to stay with Edwin, Rael's father, and also for a way for Rael to know where Scylla would be if she ever needed to find her. So there's that. But Scylla, like I said before, Scylla has stated that her priority has now shifted from trying to stop conscription to now trying to stop the Camarilla, and how that's the bigger enemy at play instead of it having be witches against witches, which makes sense. So at least for Scylla, we know where she stands in the bigger fight. So there's that. But let's move on to the most shocking moment of the episode. I know for some people they will say that it was the switch between Tally and Nicta, with the whole apprehension thing happening. That wasn't really a shock for me, because with the way that Tally was behaving after that moment, I kind of suspected that might be where they were going. But the surprise for me in connection to that was just the fact how quickly they outed the fact that Nicta was pretending to be Tally. I was kind of expecting that to last and be a bigger issue in the last 2 episodes. But we'll talk about that later. But moving on to top favorite moments. First one has to be Rael and Scylla. I mean, I've waited 8 episodes for them to be on screen together, so I truly love that we got apologies, we got the Secession invite, we got that goodbye kiss. They covered a lot, and the fact that it was implied that they stayed up all night talking, updating with each other as Rael was healing, that was something that was pretty great too. So I do appreciate that. It was just really great to see that chemistry, and just and also Scylla just saying that she doesn't want to leave Rael's side again, which is why she wanted to go on the mission with her. But yeah, I miss them. I hope we get to see them back together again. Another favorite I did have was actually the hallucinations, and not the hallucinations themselves, but the meaning behind what it took to break them out of the hallucinations. You needed a very strong connection in order to break through a very realistic hallucination. So with Rael, it took Scylla to break her out. For Tally, it took Rael to break her out of it. And then for Abigail, it took both Rael and Tally to break her out of it. And they also did it through tough love as well, too. And going back to, the solar roots of Abigail and following orders and stuff like that. So it's very interesting to see also what they were hallucinating as, their biggest fear and such. And then also what it took to break out of it. So I thought that very interesting. Plus, also, it was just very telling how the strike team didn't survive those hallucinations, and just showed how powerful the bond is between Rael, Tally, and Abigail, because it was that bond that allowed for them to break free, and I guess in Rael's case, for her bond with Scylla. So that was pretty cool there. But that leads me to my third favorite, which is Abigail and Rael. Mostly the protectiveness that Abigail had for Rael when Scylla was concerned. She definitely does not trust Scylla anymore. But then also the apologies we got between them on the helicopter ride back to Fort Salem after they had this huge fight and they were going at each other's throats. And they said some pretty awful things, but to have them apologize and really want to clear the air between them, and they realized that some of the things that were said in that cabin are not new thoughts. They've said them before, but they've come so far with their friendship that it needed to be fixed quickly. So I really appreciate how far they have come. I think theirs have progressed the most, because of course Tally is the natural peacemaker between them. So it's she gets along with everybody, but it was Rael and Abigail that were at each other's throats at the beginning of the series, and to see them come to this point, it was just yes, I'm good. Now, top peeved moment. Let's move to that. I actually don't like the fact that in this same episode, it was revealed that to everybody that Tally wasn't really Tally, and it was Nikta using the whole burn face method that the Spree tend to do. I mean, it would have been great if the episode ended with the audience getting confirmation that that's what happened, but you kind of got a sense of it when you see Nikta reacting after getting hit in the head, and then Tally's supposed reaction to all of that, or her delayed reaction to the whole sisterhood thing, and just Nikta looking very petrified and scared. It's like that fit more with Tally being unknowingly restrained, and if anything, that reminds me of another show ending that I'm not going to mention just now about like the switching of positions, of unknowingly switching positions and tricking everybody. So I'm kind of surprised that they revealed it in this episode. They implemented it and then they revealed it so quickly. I thought, if anything, they would have, Nikta would have been undercover as Tally and had full access to Fort Salem, and she could have done a lot more damage and a lot more thought, planning, and gotten closer to Adler if she actually played her cards right and went for the long con. But to have her actually reveal it in that moment, like, she couldn't really wait. Like, I understand she couldn't wait, but if you waited this long, you could wait like a few more days, like, you know. So it was just it was kind of a surprise that it happened the way it did. I kind of thought it would, because now I'm wondering, well, what's the last 2 episodes going to be if Nikta has been building to be this huge issue, right? So that's something. But let's move on to random questions very quickly. First one, where were Gregorio and M? Aren't they technically part of Tally's unit, or is the unit only made up of 3 people? And it's just Gregorio and M are part of their coven, with the units being like subsections within a coven. Am I understanding that correctly? I'm not sure. Last question, though. Did anyone else think that in Tally's hallucination with Alder that they would kiss when talking about the deeper connection between them? They definitely got really close. And I'm wondering if that was always supposed to be the plan, or if they were building off of the fandom seeing this huge connection between Alder and Tally before Tally had gotten like her suspicions about Alder and like being moved away from the adoration she felt as a baby. Because I definitely felt it, like they got close enough, and it was like, is this where this is going? Is this what Tally wants? What's going on? But then it turned into her forcing her to become a baby again. So it's like, all right, that's a valid fear. So there's that. But let's move on to predictions very quickly for episode 209. Again, second to last episode. But the promo shows Adler being confronted by President Wade when her motives are questioned. We have Nikta demanding that she only will answer their questions if she speaks to Tally. We see Rael back in the woods from the looks of it. And we also see Nikta being tied to a stake, like she's being ready to be burned at the stake kind of a thing, with Alder ready to kill her, even though she claims that it's not a great feeling to have to kill another witch. I don't know if that's just public face or anything, but there's that. But based off the synopsis for the episode, it reads, distrust in Alder grows as Tally and Abigail pressure those in power for changes. Rael gains a deeper understanding of the mycelium and its purpose for her. Ooh, I definitely can't wait to learn more about that. I want to, we figure out why the mycelium attached itself to Rael, out of all people, because she really doesn't want power, so, naturally, that's who's going to get it. But to find out what their actual purpose is and what their goal is, that would be really great to find out. But I'm just excited. I can't believe it's already, I can't believe we're almost done the season. That's just crazy. It just seems to have flown by so fast. But what did you guys think of these 2 episodes? What did you guys like about it? What do you think will happen next in the final 2 episodes? Let me know in the comments down below what you think about all of that. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. I read about promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that good stuff, all found in one place. I haven't done it for Motherland, but if there's any other show that I've talked about on YouTube that interests you, I'm more likely going to have that on my Tumblr, if anything. So check that out there. Also, WordPress, link for that is down below. Anything I post on WordPress, or anything I post online, is connected to WordPress. A little more organized, a little more detailed, but still a work in progress as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you come back next week to see what to say about the next episode. But until then, guys, this is Mel wishing you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Please stay safe. Please stay hydrated in the summer heat. And bye for now.